Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Soap Scoop. First up, we have an exclusive clip from next week's Emmerdale and a lovely chat with Michael Parr, who plays Ross.
Come on, just give me one more. One more for the road.
Hey, read my lips. I am not serving you or your crew another drop of booze.
Well, then you're in luck, because it's my crew aren't here, just me. Ross and Ryan have gone back up to the Bears for the after party.
An after party? After a school assembly? Wow, that has got to be the epitome of sad.
Ross was right about you. He said you'd be a buzzkill, amongst other things.
Right, you've been talking about me, have you?
Yep. He had lots to say. We tell each other everything.
Anything you want to share?
Wouldn't you like to know? I'm yanking your chain, Charity. Of course he doesn't say anything. He keeps his cards very close to his chest, doesn't he? Hey, maybe I can change that. Because, right, who in their right mind would not trust this beautiful face?
So hello, Michael Parr. Welcome to Soap Scoop, the Inside Soap podcast. How are you?
Very good. I'm very tired, but I'm very good, thank you, yeah.
Yeah, congratulations. Obviously a new dad. So thank you for doing this for us when you could be catching up on your sleep.
It's my pleasure.
Well, we've got to talk about Ross. Got lots of questions for you, but I just wanted to start off by saying that we were so thrilled when we heard that Ross was coming back to Emmerdale because he's a character that was much missed by us in the office. But I don't think I was prepared for how much I'm loving having him back. From your point of view, has it lived up to the expectations? Did you wonder what it would be like playing him the second time round?
I hadn't given it too much thought. I didn't think it was going to go quite quite far down the comedy route. He's always had like a little flair for. He's quite eccentric. He's, he likes to poke people. He likes to be center of attention. He's got middle child energy. That's the way I play it. That he's the middle kid. He's always like. He's not as good as his older brother, Pete, and he didn't get as much attention when he was little from, because he had Finn Barton. So he's always like trying to be the center of attention. So that's the way I played it, but it's really lent itself to being comedic, which has been nice. And yeah, I said it on the last video that we did that, I used to like it when people were like, oh God, when you were crying when Donna died, it really got me. And I used to love that. But now I like it when people are like, do you know what? You make me laugh. And, with the way the things are going on in the world, it can be a bit morose and a bit down. I love the fact that I get to maybe make, people smile.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think because he's still got that edge that we always knew from the first time round, that's what makes him really endearing now, is because he's got that comedy side and the humour's there. It's like, even if Ross is naughty, you still can't help but love him for it.
Yeah, I think, there's a difference between a good guy and a nice guy. Ross chooses to be good because he could actually just beat the snot out of you and be horrible if he wasn't, but he's really fighting those urges, and that's what I think makes him a good person.
So thinking back to when you first joined the show, like he'd been on such a journey as a character, can you remember how he was first ever described to you and compared to how he is now?
Well, I went through my emails to find the description for you. Do you want me to read it out?
Yeah, go for it.
Use my dyslexia here. Paul Barton, age 24. Paul is the bad boy of the Barton family, totally uninterested in farming as a way of life. Paul has struck out on his own, but unlike his brother Connor, who opted to go to uni, Paul's decided to make a life from petty crime as an easier way to make a living. Feckless and lazy, people can't understand the point of working his backside off when you can simply take what you want instead. Underneath the brash exterior, Paul perhaps just wants his father's approval. So Paul tries to impress him by making money, and unbeknown to his dad, that's through any means possible. Wow. Tiredness and dyslexia, it's a powerful combo.
Cool.
Well, yeah, he originally came in as Paul, and then, because it was based on somebody that our old producer, Kate Oates, knew. It's like roughly based on somebody. And then I guess they just thought Paul that could be mistaken and interpreted as like a Dingle biblical name. And Ross, no offense to any Rosses out there, it's just got like a bit of a punch to it, hasn't it? It's short and sharp.
Yeah, I remember when he first turned up, and I think he was probably one of the first that we saw of that Barton clown. He was kind of moving around the village before the others were really established and getting up to things, and then we found out that he was part of the wider group. And yeah, I do remember he had an energy about him that he still has now, but obviously we've been on a journey with Ross. So that's really interesting. And tell me about your sort of best memories of joining with the Bartons back then and sort of shaking up the village.
Well, I mean, my first, I just remember getting really excited that Bill Ward was coming into it because I got cast. And then I remember my mum saying, have you seen who they've cast as who's playing your dad? And I was like, oh my God, Charlie Stubbs. He's coming in. He's going to be playing my dad, because I really was obsessed with Corrie when that was going on. So I love that fact. And then I remember meeting Joe and Quinny, because those two were working together. I was working, but we hadn't all met. And then I just remember thinking, I was like, Quinny's been on TV for like 10 years. He's really gonna so we really look like Quinny is really like a big brother to me and Joe. And, I would love for him to be back. But yeah, it was just the excitement of meeting people and realizing that the pressure isn't necessarily as on you as you think it's going to be. Everybody here is really lovely, and it's just like, hey, you got it wrong. It's fine. We can go again. We've got time. Don't worry about it. You put all this weight on yourself when actually everybody's, it's just like, listen, that doesn't help anybody by being stressed. So let's just relax. And I just remember going, oh, this is a cool place to work.
I love Quinny. We're big fans of him here in the office as well. Obviously, he did Hollyoaks.
We need him back.
We do. I'd love to see him. And obviously, Bill as well followed his Corrie journey. So actually, as a Corrie fan, you must be stoked about this crossover that's coming up. I know you can't tell me too much, but
it's sealed. But yeah, it's super exciting, and it's something that I've always wondered. Like, why are we not crossing over? Why can't you see Ross in the Rovers, and why can't you see Ken Barlow in the Woolpack? So I think this is going to be really exciting, and hopefully, both shows could do with an influx of new energy, and maybe we start sharing fans again. I feel like sometimes there can be a bit of a divide, and it's just not I think outside people think that we're against each other, as shows, and it's like, no, we both need each other to survive. We're all in the same boat, so let's collaborate, and hopefully it boosts viewing figures and stuff, because what people are turning their TVs off, and there's it doesn't matter how much we do. It's a technology thing. We can't change that. So hopefully this draws people back into the way linear TV, the way it used to be. I think that is making a comeback. I think soaps are back, and I think soaps are cool again.
Yeah, no, soaps are massively cool. Like the engagement that we get just from people who buy our magazine, who are on our social channels, the figures are huge. So it's definitely still there. People are just absorbing them differently now. But this is such an event to tune into. So I actually cannot wait for that at all. I've got to talk to you about the Ross and Charity twist. Did you know when you returned to Emmerdale that what was in the pipeline for you?
No, that was, that I'd probably done 9 months before that idea got floated around. It kind of went against what I want. When I came in and I was meeting the producers, and I'd been working here for about 6 months, and they were like, so, how's it going? And I was like, I'm loving it. And I was like, but I don't think that Ross should have any more kids, because I think it makes it stand out that he's got one kid that he's kind of a good dad to, and then kind of useless. So I was like, but it might slow him down if he's got another. And then they told me the storyline, and I was like, so it's like history repeating itself. But that's what happens to people. People don't learn from their mistakes. And some people, I think everybody has that one person in their life, until, they don't, has that one person that they're just on the merry-go-round with, that you're just like, how long are we going to keep doing this to each other? And that, for him, I thought it was going to be Debbie, but it's actually turned out to be her mum.
Yes, exactly. Well, this is a later question I was going to ask you, but as you mentioned Debbie, I feel like Debbie Dingle, the character, is missing from the show, because she was once Ross's true love, and also Joe Tate's as well. So I feel like to have her back in the mix and see how both of those characters reacted to that. What do you think of that?
I think it would definitely be good for the drama, and it could, light the flame from an old rival, because Joe is essentially the reason why Ross has the scar on his face, but so is Debbie, and it's just about how I think Ross has moved on from it. Having off screen, it happened, his girlfriend died. That would have been so traumatic that I think he's probably moved away from that, that's how I think of it. For the sake of drama, her coming back probably would be, give us lots of material and lots of, different dynamics. And then, yeah, I think it, and also what does it do to Ross and Charity if maybe Debbie wants Ross back, and there's a lot of different branches of story that her returning could help us out with.
I love the Ross and Charity chemistry though, and I was also going to say to you that when you came back, like that relationship with you and Emma, like you're just working relationship, you've just got this natural chemistry. Do you see Charity and Ross ever work? I mean, considering they make children together very well, do you see them ever working together in the long term?
I would love that. But I think they're better when they're kind of, at each other's throats. I think, especially because Emma is such a talented actress and she's very good off the cuff. And that's the way I like to work. I like to try and do something in a different take and throw in a different variation of something. Emma is really good at responding to that. It's good that we can one up each other. And if they were happily married, which I don't think it's possible for those two characters, I don't know how much drama there is in that, so I like the thought of them they're always chasing the tail, out of their own way. So but they are a better combo in my opinion than Ross and Debbie, because Debbie, she was a bit straight, and Ross needs somebody who's a bit more crooked,
a bit more on the edge. Well, she's gone and forged these DNA test results, gonna come out at some point. I'm predicting heaven forbid Charity's child needs their biological father in their life for whatever reason, and that's potentially when it all could come out. But how do you imagine Ross is gonna feel to know that she's forged these results and lied to him?
Yeah, I can't imagine anybody would take too kindly to that. He does have a soft spot for Sarah though. He's known her since she was young, so I think he might be able to get his head around the initial, I do understand what you've done, but you have robbed me of an excitement for a expecting a child. It's such an amazing feeling. I know that now. Wasn't really aware of before having kids of my own, but I think he'll be deeply hurt by that. But what are you going to do? She's still your baby mama.
I know, exactly. They're consistently entwined, forever locked together now with these children. As fate would have it, Ross has now gone and struck up a little bit of a bromance with Mac, or they're getting along at least. And what I was thinking, is this likely to be something where we come to care about that friendship so much that that's the thing that actually poses the most risk, is this friendship blowing up when Mac finds out?
I think it definitely shouldn't be the most important thing, people worrying about their bromance. It should definitely be his romance with his wife. But I think that is always the way you set it up, isn't it? Why do they have to start getting close now when it's obvious that something's going to come out? And, it's great working with Lawrence. He's the straight man to Ross's, ridiculous. So I think it's a nice friendship, but he's also got his good friends. I don't know where that's going to go, to be honest, but I can't imagine it's going to be smooth sailing.
Lawrence does good bromance because we all come to care so much about Aaron and Mac as well, even in that whole serial killer John story. So the idea that it's now going to potentially flip to Ross a little bit too is a really interesting prospect, I think.
Yeah, and Ross doesn't really have friends. I don't know if you've noticed that he has a brother. He had his brothers, but he's never had a buddy because he's such a lone wolf. And the way Ross has never had anybody really close to him. He didn't grow up with the family because he ran away. His mom tried to drown him. His dad was always beating him up because he kept nicking things. And, he did, and he loved Finn, but that's his brother. He's never really had a friend. So it would be nice for him to, see what he's like as a friend. Is he a good friend, or is he a bit of a rat?
I know. Oh, it's going to be a shame when it all goes wrong, inevitably. Need to talk to you about Man Preet, because I loved that stuff between Ross and that was brilliant. It was really, really fun. Did you and Rebecca have much time to workshop it? Had you worked together ever before? Because it just seemed to work.
No, she came in as I was going out the last time that I was here. So we crossed paths, and I really didn't see that one coming. When they told me, it's weird because Ross isn't one of the younger ones. He's not like with Katie and Rosie and Jack. I'm a lot older than those actors, but I'm not like Emma and Jeff and Natalie's age either. I'm in like a different, and there isn't really many girls in the show right now that Ross could kind of kind of cross paths with. So that was a bit of a curveball. And working with Rebecca is so much fun. She has the most wicked, naughtiest laugh. She has got a great sense of humor. She is lovely to work with. I would love it if that came back around. Yeah, it was just good, spontaneous fun. And no, we didn't have a chance to workshop anything because we never really do. It's very much like, know your lines, be on time, and have some ideas. And we did that, and that's what happened, and it was great.
Yeah, I really, really love that. I've met Rebecca many times, and she's one of the most loveliest people to chat to. So yeah,
Super smart as well, which is like, it's every day is a school day when you're working with her.
it was funny actually because she came to an Inside Soap Awards a couple of years ago before Ross came back, and one of my questions was, oh, who could you see Manpreet hooking up with in the village? And it was, I think it just been announced that you were coming back or something like that. So she had a bit of fun with it, and she did say, oh, Ross Barton can pop his slippers under the bed anytime or something like along those lines. And then when you two got together, I was like, I messaged her, I said, Rebecca, did we manifest this for you? Because that is essentially what, you said at the Inside Soap Awards. So yes, I feel like it all came together at the right time.
And that's great. It just shows that producers, writers, everybody's kind of listening. I imagine Rebecca said that online. People would have commented on it, and then they go, right, let's give them what they want.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say to you, did you find it, how quickly did it take you to get back into Ross's shoes again? Because remind me, how long were you away between the stint?
I did 5 and I left for 5.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And I can talk about that another time, but coming back, it was quite nerve wracking because my first scenes, I think my first 3 days were topless, and I was like, oh man, like I forgot how nerve wracking that is because there's loads of new crew and there's loads of like supporting artists that I haven't met. So it was quite nerve wracking, but to go straight back into the boxing, which is, something that I really love. It was great. Line learning was a lot harder. My brain had definitely lost its ability to retain so many lines and learn so many, scenes for the next day and stuff. I couldn't do that. So I was nervous about lines, but after about 3 days, he's like, we're back, baby.
Yeah, definitely felt that pretty instantly from when you arrived. So that's great. And I was going to say, as we mentioned Ross's shoes, but what about Gabby's dressing gown? Because you've had that on recently in scenes.
So much shooting. I mean, bless Rosie, but she's about 5'3". That can't be the actual silk dressing gown. But who knew that was going to go down that way? And I had a mustache just because I always shave when I'm not here. I try not to look like Ross, but it's hard because we work so often. And I'd gone away with a few friends, but we were flying from Manchester, and I thought, well, I'd like to try and go under the radar a little bit. So I shaved and just had a mustache. Didn't work. So that's how I looked when I got back. And then I thought, I look like I'm in a Freddie Mercury video here. But yeah, it was good fun. The lines were good. I got to ham it up. I'm a hammy actor anyway. I'm a stage actor at heart. So I have to tell the directors, I was like, you need to tone me down because I will give way too much. And it was just good fun working with those guys, being in that house, just being able to pump a bit of comedy and light relief back into the episodes, which has been great. And also that happened with the sheep rustling one where we had to herd the sheep. Just the short, succinct comedy storylines in the episode that it's not always doom and gloom for the audience. I really enjoy doing that because, especially right now, because I've had a child, I don't want to be in the A storylines, that like the main, because usually they're the more intense ones. I like the fact that I can just show up, do, I get some really quality lines, and people are like, they're really always giving you the funny lines. And I'm like, I'm Ross Barton. What can I say?
I love your stuff with Claire King as well, Kim Tate. Like, I love that he started sniffing around Home Farm pretty early doors and got himself a job there. Like, I just think that totally works.
Yeah, I got fired off screen as well. I was annoyed about that because I was like, I was enjoying that job. Yeah, it is what it is.
And, you say the A stories. I think Ross naturally gravitates to the A stories in the end. So even though at the moment, like, he's kind of just dotting around, I can see him, I don't know, in the middle of either, whether it's a love triangle or it's something harder than that. I mean, I was going to ask you actually if he could, who would be your dream nemesis? And I am looking at the April story thinking Ross has that history and that relationship with April. He'll be devastated if he found out what was going on with her, surely.
Yeah, I think that is started to be released in the scripts soon. So I don't know what's going on with it, but yeah, we've always had a connection, you know, because she was such a talented little 4-year-old. It was strange, and it was just like, well, she's amazing as a 4-year-old. Where does it go? And now she's basically the face of the show, you know, and she wins all the awards and stuff. So it's more like I'm grateful just to be part of her storylines now. But yeah, and we get on like a house on fire as well. She's a very thoughtful young woman, and it's been a joy to watch her grow up. And now that she's still an amazing actress. But I can imagine when Ross does find out, there's going to be hell to pay. And I love working with Joe and Jay as well. Is them two, I was like blown. Like the names that are getting brought into the show right now, I don't know what that. I think it says something, one to how good Emmerdale is, and one to what the industry is actually like at the minute. Actors, you know, are now looking to soap and going, oh, actually, this isn't maybe the way that the industry used to view it. There was always a stigma about soap before, but I imagine all those agents are just like, actually, we could do with our clients working, because the industry is really in an odd place. So getting to work with Joe, who I remember watching him on screen, you know, just watching those storylines and then going, oh my God, I get to work with him now. And he's a brilliant actor, and they're very thoughtful as well. You know, they're very much like, do you want to do this? Right, could you give me a bit of that and I'll do this? And yeah, it all works out.
Yeah, I was saying on a group chat at work this morning, actually, is it wrong that I really like Emmerdale Ray? Like, I was watching him last night just on the usual episode, and obviously Ray is a very bad man, but Joe's performance, like, because 1 minute he's been really awful to April, and the next minute he's on the phone to his mum going, hello mum, because he's clearly under her thumb. And I just think the way that Joe pivots between the two things is so good. So I'm invested.
Yeah, I love working with those two, and I don't know where it goes, but I hope that we get to cross. And Chris Coghill as well. Shout out to Chris, because I literally have just done season 3 of Slow Horses, and I was like, who is that nut job in that show? And then I was like, that's, oh my God, he's coming in. Yes. You know, these amazing actors. I don't know if you saw Slow Horses season 3, but he plays a real nutter, and it's great that somebody who's been working with Gary Oldman, you know, on the last job is now here. It's really inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Jay, of course. Like, Celia is absolutely terrifying, and like Jay praised that absolutely amazingly. But do you think Ross would go up against her? Like, he's fearless, really.
I think if Ross is provoked and you hurt the wrong people around him, the old Ross is gonna. I did see a comment online the other day that said Ross is a creep and a sociopath. And I was like, yeah, I've got to remember, like, there is like the real, like, Ross has shot people, you know, he's not one to be trifled with. But yeah, I think Ross's thing is that he's like physically violent. Like, he's a good fighter. He's not scared of anyone. He's just not that smart. But if those two who are smart, who probably aren't, you know, as physically imposing, if they, you know, get caught in the wrong part of the farm and there's no one around, they're going to come off much worse. So it's a good mix of brain versus brawn, I think.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, actually, because I was going to say to you, like, I feel like I said this to Lawrence when we spoke to him on the podcast, that Emmerdale is real Avengers Assemble energy at the moment, because you've got Ross, Mack, Joe, Aaron, Robert, and there's a real mix there of brains and brawn. And I can just imagine, like, would you like to see them team up for the greater good? Because I'd love to see you lot in the mix, actually, all because they all hate each other in different ways, but then actually to come together to fight an evil would be amazing.
Yeah, I think we have to figure out who is who out of the Avengers, though. Ross is the Hulk. I'm having the Hulk. Nobody else. That Joe has got to be Tony Stark. I think Aaron is Captain America. Robert is, oh God, who are the others?
Robert could be. Oh, what about
Samuel L. Jackson's character? And he can be, I don't know, he can be the raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy.
No, that would be. Oh, Joe, we're so putting this in the magazine now. I'm mocking you up in characters, like you're having the costumes, and absolutely do that. Obviously, we mentioned Charity Secret is inevitably going to go out. Can you give me any hints about what's coming up for Ross, potentially heading into Christmas?
I, hand on heart, wish I could, but I don't know, because I'm only just back, my second day back after my paternity leave, which ITV and Emmerdale were very good with giving me, you know, like easing me back into the show. So I really don't know anything, but I do know that I think around December I start to get a little busier, but that would obviously be after Crimbo. So I don't know. It's got to be something to do with this child. And it's Ross and Charity. There's always going to be fireworks. You know, even them two in the pub, the sniping that they do each other. So even if it isn't like action pilled or dramatic, it'll still be witty and intelligent.
Oh, and I'm loving all the stuff on screen at the moment as well with the house, Vinny and Lewis. Like, it's just such a lovely dynamic that you've got going on there. And we had a lovely time with you and Bradley when you did our shoot in the summer. Like, can really feel like the brotherly relationship that you've got going on. So you're happy with how that's working out?
It's great. I mean, it's odd being back because that house is the house where Ross, you know, lived with the family, with his Pete and the other Bartons, Finn and his dad. And so now I live there with a new brother and Bradley, and it's the same set. So it feels a little unusual, but yeah, it's just exciting. I mean, I feel quite a lot older than, you know, when I joined, I was 26. I'm 40 this year. So I feel like Ross is a bit of an odd one out, but that kind of gives it another comedy angle that Ross just can't grow up. And he's a bit Peter Pan, and you know, he's still got that eye for the girls as well, you know, so I think it's going to be a lot of fun working with, you know, Bradley. It's just a hoot, and frustrating having two Bradleys on one small set and them saying, oh, Bradley, can you just move to the right? And it's like, which Bradley? We need to get some code names or some nicknames for them.
Absolutely. Well, we're absolutely loving it at Inside Soap. I think everyone was very jealous when I called Rank and said I was going to do this interview with you. So thank you very much.
I couldn't come as well. Sorry, I was... What date did you guys do it on again?
It was the 29th. I think you'd literally just had a baby.
You'd had a baby. I think, you know, because I was up for an award and, you know, and I did want it. You know, like you don't want them and then you're nominated and you're like, all right, actually, like that would be nice to win an award. So I think I was like, it's on the 27th, babe. And she just went, no. And I was like, yeah, well, I don't know why I ever thought that I might be able to sneak to London, but it looked like it was a wonderful do. And it's every time I've been, it's always been such a hoot. And I'm always, you know, a little bit tipsy and singing musical theatre numbers with somebody. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. When you said earlier actually about Coronation Street and Emmerdale and all the soaps and that people think there's rivalry, but there's really not. The Inside Soap Awards is an event where you see that there is none of that rivalry because it's quite an intimate event, as you know, like it's a lot smaller than the other big award ceremonies, and that's when you really see all the soaps come together and just really celebrate each other's work, and that there's no bad feeling. So it's really lovely to see that. Hopefully you'll get to the next one.
And it's good because like Julia from Coronation Street, I've known for years outside of our ITV connection, and Farrell Hegarty, who's now on like I went to drama school with Farrell, you know, so it's great fun, and it really brings us all together, and we are all in the same boat. You know, it's not like we need Corrie to be doing good so that we do good, and EastEnders and Hollyoaks. You know, it's a shame that the way that TV is, you know, is being dominated by YouTube and streaming platforms and stuff like that. But I think there's hope. I think it's starting to look. People are starting to feel a lot more optimistic about it. I think people have really got sick of staring at the phones, and people are like, actually, I want a little taster of like what my childhood, how we all grew up, and Emmerdale and Coronation Street do that for you.
Yeah, I was going to say to you actually that, you know, not enough of the tabloids report on the fact that soaps are still doing so well for streaming. If you think, I can only use EastEnders as an example because I do know their figure, but they report something like 285 million streams on iPlayer a year. So I think people are so quick to say things like, oh, you know, soaps don't get any viewers anymore, but they do. They're just getting them differently.
And it's also not comparable to how it used to be and stuff, but it's not even nice to think about that we have to worry about that, but it is. If people aren't watching, then the shows don't go ahead, but people are watching, and it is underreported and it is undervalued as a medium. Soap has basically been the backbone of British TV for 50 years. You know, it really has supported ITV, Channel 4 and the BBC. So, you know, a little bit of a cash influx into it could only make things better, in my opinion. It's a very British mentality, isn't it? To see if you can make the same show for a little bit less money, whereas the Americans go, oh, that was great. What happens if we put like another 20 grand into each episode? So But yeah, we're still here and we're still hanging on and we're doing good, I think.
Well, yeah, I'm amazed by what you guys do, even on the budgets that you do have. If you think of the limo crash, I mean, I came and watched the behind the scenes filming of that probably this time last year, and it was awesome. Like, if you think that everything is so streamlined now in terms of what you can actually spend, what you guys do with what you've got is like beyond brilliant. So long may the soaps reign, and long may Ross Barton reign, because we are loving your work. So thank you very much, Michael Parr, for joining us here on Soap Skip today.
Thank you very much.
Chloe, I love Michael Parr. And I say this about every guest, but I just refuse to let him off the line. Even when we press stop, I think I was still asking him questions, because he is just such a gem. I'm loving having Ross back, and I love this idea that it sounds like he's going to get involved in the April story.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that April Ross bond has been there right from the very start. And I think that's where we first saw Ross's human side. So it's really important for us to kind of keep seeing that. Although I love this new Ross that we're getting this time round. He's so funny. He's just so warm and just brilliant. I'm really loving having him back.
One of the questions I was putting to him with regards to April was that could he take on Celia, because it feels like, is there anybody in this show that's going to be able to bring her down, because she is so rotten, particularly that episode last week where she said to April, oh, are you familiar with the game Snog, Marry, Avoid? And then she went as far as to say, my game is stab, burn, drown, which I just found absolutely wild. Like, it made me go back in my seat.
Yeah, absolutely horrific. In fact, I know there's even more horrific things that there's planned for Celia. And like you say, who on earth in that village? Because I know the normal answer would be Kane, but even Kane I don't think could take Celia down. There's just something really insidious about her, and she's clever and she's sly and she's evil in a way I don't think we've seen before in Emmerdale, which I find really exciting. I think it's really fun to have kind of different types of villains in the show, and Celia is just nailing a type of villain that we haven't had. And I think because she's so cool and calm, that makes her even more dangerous.
Let's continue with Emmerdale, because the reason why we have put this episode of the podcast out tonight at 7:30 was that so you could all have a chance to watch tonight's Emmerdale, which we were able to see a preview of, and there was this huge twist in the middle of it. It was a special standalone episode, of course, between Marlon and April, where it looks like April has confessed everything to Marlon, like these hugely dramatic scenes between Amelia Flanagan and Mark Charnock, ever reliable Mark Charnock, who any excuse to have him on our screens, I completely understand why Emmerdale do it. But basically April confessed everything, only for Ray to charge in with a gun, shoot Marlon dead, and have them play out a death scene. And then 2 minutes later, it was all in April's head. She just imagined the whole thing as a consequence, as if she was to tell Marlon the truth, which I don't know how you feel about it, Chloe, but I feel watching something like that it's a great thing to do, because you get the opportunity to play something that you would absolutely never play. You're never going to shoot Marlon dead in his kitchen, because he's such this amazing figure of Emmerdale. But equally, as a viewer, the minute they shot him, I was watching it going, well, this must be a dream. He's not really dead.
Yeah, do you remember at primary school, you were always told, like, don't end your story on it was all a dream, because it just, it feels like you're robbing the reader or the audience of something. And I do wonder whether, I mean, is there anyone that was watching that really thought Marlon's dead? Because we know nowadays, if someone's leaving the show, it's very hard to keep it a secret. And I think we kind of feel as well that Marlon is one of those characters that will be there till the very end. And I don't know who was convinced by it. It was a massive shock. Like, I genuinely was watching it thinking, what? I wasn't expecting it at all. But there was a part of me as well that did think, this feels like too early for April to be confessing everything, because we know that this storyline is going to be long running. We know that actually, probably realistically, people who are in this situation, it takes them a long time to confess. So there was part of me that was like, oh, this a bit too easy, really. But we did have that lovely scene between Kyle and April at the graveside, where they both talked about losing their moms, and Kyle kind of nudged her towards opening up to Marla. And I did think that was a really lovely scene. So Yeah, I'm kind of torn really, because this is the first of 3 Emmerdale specials. We've got the April one, the Bear one, and the Robert one that are coming soon. And we're previewing the Bear and the Robert one in our current issue. I can't wait for the Bear one because I think it's a really interesting topic, and who guessed that was what Bear was going to be up to in his. Obviously, really looking forward to the Robert special, but there is a part of me that thinks how long before every week has got a special episode, and I feel like maybe they need to rein it back a little bit, just because they stop being special when they're so often.
I think Emmerdale have got more scope for it than the other soaps. I don't know. I think Emmerdale gets away with a little bit more than Corrie and EastEnders because it's in the countryside. It's a bit Dallas meets Dynasty, but in the Yorkshire Dales. I love that. Whereas EastEnders won't do you any kind of special music, and they're very rare when they do special treatment episodes. I would actually say that. I remember they did that one a couple of years ago, or actually it might have been last year. God, time flies when you're having fun in Soapland. But when you thought Linda had passed away,
Yeah.
I admit that I wasn't necessarily a fan of that. But EastEnders won't give you special music, but it will give you a special random fox in an episode, like a CGI fox.
Yeah, but see, I don't like that. I'm so traditional, and that maybe I'm an old-fashioned stickler for what soap is. But I kind of think if we're a soap lover, we love our soaps, we love our kitchen sink drama.
Well, you may have to make your peace with this as
Yeah.
cracks out these standalone. Speaking of special episodes, we can move on to Coronation Street because there is one coming for David and Shona. Now, David and Shona, I feel like Jack P. Shepherd, bless him, has just picked up an award for Best Comedy at the Inside Soap Awards, and now him and Shona are about to segue into a really heartbreaking plot. I think we can say that they go to the hospital for their scan because, of course, Shona is pregnant. And something worrying shows up. It looks like there is a mass on the baby's neck, or so they can see, or the sonographer can see. And it forces them down a road of having to make some really tough choices. And I think the special episode is from Shona's point of view as she kind of navigates as a mum to be what she wants to do about the situation. I don't know how I feel about more heartbreak for David and Shona, because I feel like just when they're at a place where everything's grand, and I do love comedy from Jack P. Shepherd.
Yeah, I think as well the episode will dive into David's point of view as well. So you've got mum's point of view and dad's point of view. I do understand how you feel about David and the kind of comedy potential element being robbed from us a little bit. But I have to say, I don't think that David and Shona have had a really kind of gritty or emotional or heartfelt storyline in ages. In fact, like in the last few years, I feel like we've barely seen Shona. I know, there's been other reasons why we might not have seen her, but I just feel like they're missing that kind of connection as a couple. And I think it'll be really nice to see, hopefully this bring them together, although I wonder whether it could also tear them apart. But I think we kind of guessed that it was going to be tragic, because when they found out about the baby, it was so happy, and they had lovely scenes with the Platts and David and Sarah making fun of each other. And I just thought, no, because anytime there's some lovely, joyous happiness and frivolity, it's always going to end badly. Why does it have to happen like this? But it's going to be really tough to watch. And it's one of those things where I'm not looking forward to it because of that. But I also feel like I would love to see them more as a couple. So in that respect, I am looking forward to it.
Yeah, you're right. And the fact that Corrie are doing a storyline where, a couple go to an appointment for a pregnancy scan and don't get the news that a lot of people do is actually something that is really good, because I think that sort of thing happens every single day to parents to be, whatever that news is when they go into the scan room, and not a lot of people talk about it because it's just very much a given that you find out that you're pregnant and you're going to have a baby. So I think that it's good that they're looking at not a straightforward outcome for David and Shona, and how they're going to sort of navigate that. We also need to talk about Swarla. So amazing scenes in the Rovers where Carla just went hell for leather on Becky. You were a big fan of these things.
I loved it. I really loved it. And I know obviously the whole kiss situation and the kind of unresolved tension between Carla and Lisa is going to cause some issues in the fandom, but I have to say, I thought it was their best stuff in ages. Carla has been kind of mute and very calm and the perfect girlfriend or fiance in the background, saying nothing, letting Lisa deal with it. This was wonderful. Seeing Carla go full Carla Connor on Becky, absolutely loved every second of it. Kind of maybe wanted a bit more of a, fight, proper slapping, but it was perfect. Saying, I'm going to kill you, and right in front of an audience as well. And Becky's meant to be on the down low, right? She's meant to be dead already, so I don't know how that's going to go down. But I loved it, and I actually think like the tension between Lisa and Carla is really interesting because it's complicated. It's like it's not just straightforward. It's not like just an ex. She was her wife, and now she's back, and of course Lisa's going to feel kind of confused and conflicted about it, but she has made her feelings like super clear to Carla, and I love that Carla's kind of gone to Roy and being like, I am going to fight for this. This is what I want, and I just think, yes, Carla, come on, see through Becky, be the one that sees through Becky, because I know people are getting frustrated because Lisa's kind of sleepwalking through this and not seeing the signs, but I'm kind of think like, well, yeah, okay, Lisa, it works for the police, but if it was your wife, maybe you wouldn't see the signs because you're wanting to see the best in her. But there's lots to come. There's so many more revelations to come. And I think actually Carla returning was almost like the kickoff point for the next part of the story. So there's lots to come of Costello, Becky. So it's all happening. Is moving forward at the moment.
Yeah, we're going to find out at the end of this week, I think, the history between Becky and Costello. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to say something quite controversial. I wonder whether, obviously, the idea to deliberately make Becky a villain in all of this was to obviously not upset the fandom and let them know that obviously she's a villain. So Carla and Lisa will find their way back to get each other in the end. But what if Becky hadn't been a villain? What if she had just come back from witness protection, all this stuff had gone on, but that not necessarily everything was her fault, or she was just kind of completely innocent and caught up in something she couldn't control, so that Lisa would have to deal with the idea that she had this wife who she loved like so dearly. Like, that's the real challenge. Like, almost don't make it easy. Like, I feel like if there were real, you know what I mean?
I get you, but also from Lisa's point of view, that is the story. So as far as Lisa's concerned, Becky is pretty innocent in this. Like, yes, she's complicit, but Lisa doesn't really know the full extent of Becky's kind of, villain arc as we know it. So I guess from Lisa's point of view, she still is that person. But I know what you mean. That probably would have been more juicy, but then I am kind of excited for Becky to be worming her way in and slowly sounds horrible, but slowly destroying Carla's life, and then Carla almost feeling gaslighted. It's going to be quite tough to watch if it goes down this route, but
Yeah.
Carla feeling like I'm being gaslighted in my own home by this woman, and my fiance doesn't believe me, but I still want to marry her. So it's like really awkward and uncomfortable, and I feel like Carla needs an ally. Who is that ally going to be? Is someone else on the cobbles going to discover what Becky's really like?
And now you've just made me think of new things. Recently, I have been watching it's not new, it's been out for a couple of years, but I just recently caught up on it all. The new series of Fatal Attraction with Joshua Jackson in it, because Joshua Jackson is my favourite from Dawson's Creek. He's the only man I'm legally allowed to leave my husband for. So what if Becky, because she is villain vibes and she is going to be worming her way in, there might have to be a casualty in this story. I'm seeing bunny boiler behaviour, but someone like Ryan being like a casual victim in it all. Like,
Ooh, not Ryan.
and I love Ryan, so protect Ryan at all costs. I don't want her to kill him, but I want something like, I don't know, maybe something like that, because he's in the household and he's a bit of a witness / bystander to it all. But the ultimate victim would be Roy, because Roy is on to Becky. So maybe something happens that, a bit Roy and Tony Gordon-esque, like Roy goes out bat watching and Becky follows in with, like, I don't know.
I do like the idea of Ryan because, like we've said, we really like Ryan as a character, and he doesn't get a lot to do, unfortunately. So I feel like this could give Ryan his juicy part of the plot if Becky somehow targets him. But yeah, I thought you were going to say, Betsy gets a pet and then the pet ends up.
Well, maybe it won't be Betsy's pet. Maybe because they live next door to David, it will be David the dog. Oh my God, I've gone way too far. But I did.
We're in Celia vibes now.
Stab, burn, drown. But Don't listen to Celia. Right, okay, that's enough whipping up Swarla storylines. Let's move on to EastEnders, because we've just watched all of the Slater flashback VHS to 1988. And as a team, the Inside Soap wider team, we were discussing the fact that surely there is a special Slater flashback episode, much like they did with the Mitchell family, begging to happen. They've cast them all for the purpose of this VHS. So why not a proper episode? BBC, is it going to happen?
Well, I'd love it. And actually, as we're sort of, this episode is almost like an episode about special episodes. Maybe we have Kat kind of reflecting, and then behind her we suddenly see these, you know, younger versions emerge. I can just see it now. It would be amazing. I guess the issue is that we know a lot more about the Slaters than we do about the Mitchells' past, and I guess we know all the drama that went on there. But it probably would be nice to see more of like Kat's mum and dad, maybe, and kind of how they handled her pregnancy. And I mean, I'm loath to say more of Uncle Harry, because, you know, knowing what he was like. But I do think the kind of Slater dynamics and the kind of dynasty is really interesting. And obviously we've seen now how it's affecting Tommy, and he's considering like, am I like him? You know, the whole thing that kind of, how does it ripple across a family is so interesting. But yeah, I'd love to see a Slater special.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's an appetite for it. And I just wanted to say to the amazing Gemma Bissix, if you are listening, we will pop out a clip on the socials. Thank you for your services to Hollyoaks and to drama in general, because this was the last week of Claire we've just watched. And wasn't she fabulous? For me, it was just a cross between Hollyoaks and Death Becomes Her.
It's the red heels, the red coat. I mean, Claire is an absolute icon. I'll never, ever, ever forget her first exit at the airport, where she broke the fourth wall and looked into the camera. One of Soap's greatest villains. I'm so glad they brought her back for this stint, because I know her previous stint wasn't like the best. So this one, I feel like we truly saw Claire at her best again. And yeah, I've loved having her back. I'd love to see her again sometime, if they can cook up some super dramatic plot for her to return in. What an ending, what a character.
I know. I mean, the anniversary episodes, we could, you know, talk about them all day. But even though Jez was in charge of flying that plane, I feel like Claire Devine and Gemma piloted those episodes just with the outrageous Hollyoaks bonkersness that Hannah Cheers promised us. And yes, I'm sure this won't be the last we hear of Gemma, because she is fabulous, and there'll always be, you know, with Froggy in town and Rex, of course, there'll be a reason for Claire to perhaps get her revenge, as she's promised. So hope.
And the new Black as well, because of course one of the characters from Hollyoaks later has been revealed as Froggy's son. So, you know, the family is still living and breathing, so there's always room for Claire to come back.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that is it from me and Chloe today. We have wanged on quite enough. Although I didn't get a chance to say earlier, we were talking on the soap group chat at work, and I just threw it out there. Is it really wrong that I really like Emmerdale Ray, like, who is obviously deemed
Pants.
all right, Chloe? I wasn't sure I was going to give that up, but you've just outed me.
We all agreed. Joe Absolom, EastEnders, we all love the curtains, and now he's developed into a lovely sort of silver fox. I don't think it's wrong to say that.
I know, but he's doing really awful things.
He is. We can't condone anything Ray is doing. I find him such a fascinating character because of the Celia that has groomed him basically into her little minion. So he's really interesting. Whether whether I'm allowing you to like him or not is another matter. But we can relate to Laurel, is what we're saying.
Yes, we can relate. And do you know what? Maybe I reckon they are setting Ray up to have a redemption arc in all of this, because clearly has had an awful childhood. Probably doesn't want to be. It's a bit like Rex in Hollyoaks actually as well, isn't it? So you know, awful things, but there's perhaps a way through it. And yeah, I'd love for whatever's at the end of this. I mean, actually, Celia and Ray, whatever they've got planned for them, just keep them around for as long as you can, because they are just gold to watch. So yes, Well, that's a lovely way to end the podcast. I'll have words with Chloe after this. Someone's getting fired, but no, of course not. Of course not. She'll be back next week. She's interviewing someone from Coronation Street, who you'll be very pleased to hear from. And so, thank you very much. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment if you want to hear more interviews, and chat from us. And we'll see you next week.